Hi, folks. Here's your Act 2 screencast, and I am hitting the high points, so please write on a Post-it any questions or thoughts you may have as you're reading. But as we head into Act 2, we have Hamlet having spoken with the ghost of his father, and we find out at the end of Act 1 that old Hamlet was murdered by Claudius, and we find out that Gertrude was seemingly in on the plot. And that the ghost is appearing not necessarily because of Norway, but more to the point, the ghost and the soul of the king is in turmoil because he died without absolution. So he levies the charge against Hamlet to go avenge his murder, and then his soul can rest. And that is what drives the rest of this plot, this notion of murdering for revenge, gaining vengeance for his dead father, and that opens up further discussions of betrayal, of consequence, of thought and action. And we end with that kind of cliffhanger. We open Act 2 with a really sharp shift. We have the opening scene here. We already know that Polonius is Laertes and Ophelia's dad. We know that Laertes has gone off to school after advising Ophelia about Hamlet. And when we open up in Act 2, Polonius is talking to one of his servants, Reynaldo, giving Reynaldo orders. He's sending Reynaldo to France to spy on Laertes to see if he's behaving, if he is gambling or hanging out with ladies of the night, getting involved in fights, generally like a parent checking up on his child. And this is important for the characterization piece of Claudius here. We do see him checking up on Laertes, but again, giving him a little bit of flexibility because he is still a guy. In this time, as he's advising Reynaldo about how to spy on his son, Ophelia comes in, and she's really freaked out because she has had a visit from Hamlet. Now, remember, Polonius and Laertes both told her, hey, stay away from Hamlet. And as much as she didn't want to agree, she did. So in the interim of this process, she has, to use our term, she's broken up with Hamlet. She's distanced herself. She's avoiding him. And she comes running in to tell Polonius, I'm absolutely frightened. Hamlet broke into my bedroom and he was half dressed and he didn't say anything to me. He stared at me. He grabbed my hand. He sighed heavily. He tugged on me and then he left. And she's really worried about this, but as a daughter would in this time, she does need to tell her dad because he was in her bedroom. And even if nothing happened, it still is a bit of a red flag. So Polonius hears this and gets a little bit excited because he figures that he now understands why Hamlet is acting odd. It's not just about the grief over his father. Hamlet is acting odd because Hamlet is lovesick. And he's so pleased at the thought of this discovery, and he reports right to the king about this. And of course, this makes Gertrude happy because she really does like Ophelia, and she likes Ophelia for Hamlet. And they then plot to figure out whether or not Ophelia is really the focus of Hamlet's attitude right now. In this time, we also see that Claudius continues to be a bit suspicious of Hamlet. He knows Hamlet's smart. He knows Hamlet's no fool. He knows Hamlet's acting a little bit crazy. And Claudius is of the school of thought of, hey, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So he keeps Hamlet here with them in Denmark, and he brings in two of his friends from school, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. They are extremely flat characters, but we do want them in your cheat sheet because they do function as plot movers here. So Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are summoned by Claudius to come hang out with Hamlet. which is actually kind of a nice thing for a stepdad to do until he says, hey, I brought you here to hang out with Hamlet because he's really sad right now. But here's the catch. I want you to listen to what he says. I kind of want you to spy on him, and I want you to report back to me. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, unlike Horatio, listen to Claudius and say, oh, okay, I mean, yeah, he's our friend, but if you want us to spy on him, hey, you're the king, so we'll do your duty. And that's how they come back into the scene. So again, note that when Hamlet ends this act, he's got 3 friends that are with him right now. He's got Horatio and he's got Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Horatio is there for him. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are there for the king. So again, betrayal on another level it starts to present its head in this act. And so as Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are talking with Hamlet, and he is challenging them, he says, look, I think you're here because the king sent you. And they refuse. They say, no, we're here because we're your friends. We care about you. We want to know how you're doing. Hamlet says, no, I really think you're here for the king. And they fold like a cheap house of cards. They say, yes, we were sent for. But that doesn't mean we don't still like you. Well, Hamlet's over it at that point. And so he keeps them around. But again, he's well aware that they're not here for him like Horatio is. And so as they're having this conversation, a troupe of actors are traveling through Denmark, and Hamlet stops them and has a conversation with them. And in this interaction, he comes up with the plan for how to figure out whether or not Claudius really is the murderer, whether or not the ghost was telling the truth. So he hires the players to perform at the palace. And when they perform, he is going to sneak in a scene that mimics the murder that the ghost told him about. And his thought here is that if Claudius is guilty, there will be a reaction during the performance. And if he can get that confirmation, then he's going to feel okay about taking this man's life. So one of the last things you'll hear in this act is, the play's the thing, wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. One of the most famous lines in Hamlet. This is where we see Hamlet starting to take some action. It's not necessarily that he loves the idea of killing. He'll do it, he thinks. But what he wants here is confirmation that he's doing it in the right way and that it is the right person that he's killing. So when we get back together tomorrow, we're going to take a look at some of the interplay between Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. I also want to make sure that we have a little bit of further characterization on Hamlet and Ophelia and the interaction that Ophelia tells us about. So for tomorrow, please be aware of the scene with Hamlet and Ophelia. It's primarily Ophelia. She's recounting the story. And come in with your questions, come in with your thoughts, and that's how we'll roll. And I do hope to find a way to show you the video. I don't know how it will work, but I'm absolutely open to suggestions. So please message me if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.